Hello everyone, Ben here, and we're back with another episode in our British GT Championship on Assetto Corsa Competizione. We're going to be covering the full season here on the channel, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss a single race. We're here then for round 2 in Snetterton, having come second place at Oulton Park in the previous race. If you missed that episode, look into the top right hand corner of your screen now. You can find a link to check that out. A really busy first corner there then, where we almost got pinched in between the other two cars at the front of the pack. We thought better of it and pulled back, but then we did make a move on Nicky Tim into the hairpin, so we're up into second place in this race. Decent qualifying, starting towards the front, so I've got big hopes today that we might sneak a win. So we're now chasing Lind in the Lamborghini and going to try and get past him in fairly short order, hopefully, because I do think we've got pretty good pace. So here at Snetterton, one of the new tracks as part of the DLC, just as we nearly lose it there, we just about keep hold of the car. It's early on, the tyres aren't fully up to temperature yet, and we perhaps saw some evidence of that there as we came through the corner. So Snetterton, one of the new tracks, and it's again, like Oulton Park, fantastic. It's perhaps slightly less sort of enjoyable. I guess that's perhaps just my preference in terms of Oulton Park as a track. This section here is really tricky instead, and I've always found it tricky. It is perhaps even trickier taking it in these GT3 cars. I mean, I think probably in the past I've driven Snetterton mainly in things like the Renault Clio Cup cars, perhaps in the touring cars, but things which have got a little bit less grunt than these GT3 cars. So that is definitely an experience, driving this track in the faster machinery. But I don't know, there's just something about the layout of Oulton Park and the kind of bumps in the track, the narrowness of it, which really appeals. And although I think this is a fantastic interpretation of Snetterton and very good to drive, it's perhaps just not quite as compelling for me personally as Oulton Park. But we've come now into lap 2 and we haven't really been able to close the gap, so we're still now in second place. We've got 15 minutes left of this race. Again, we've ran a 20-minute time limit on the race. We have dropped Nicky Tim behind us, so he's now 2.4 seconds back in the Aston Martin. So it's very much a two-way fight for the lead here, and we're trying to kind of put pressure on. We're quicker in some parts of the track, and Lind is quicker in other parts. And we can't really get this exit onto the back straight right. And you'll see there that he's pulled away a tenth or two, and really that is putting us in difficulty, because it sort of puts us out of contention to make a move into the final sector of the lap. We're going to come now under the bridge into this tricky section one more time. We do manage to close up under braking, but not really able to then hold it onto the exit. He actually gets a slightly better exit than we do as we come now into the multiple right hand corner here, as it just seems to go on forever, shifting down into third gear most laps here to just try and keep a degree of acceleration in, and we do then get it down into first place, get it slowed down and into the tight left hander, and now back to start another lap. And this would really be the kind of story of the first half of the race. I wasn't really able to make the progress that I thought I would be able to. So we're coming up now to the halfway point. The gap to Lind has pretty well remained static. We've both pulled away from Tim and the pack behind significantly, so I've got a 6-second cushion to the cars behind, but we're now onto the back straight once again, still a second gap to Lind up ahead, and I'm getting a little bit frustrated, I think, behind the wheel and thinking I need to push a bit more, I need to kind of eke out a bit more time, and I carry that into this corner and I just lose it under braking, and I'm really fortunate to keep it out of the wall, but we've thrown away really our chance of victory here, it seems, by just getting a little bit too greedy into the braking zone. The car was unbalanced, I couldn't correct it, and we slid right off the track, and now we've got dirty tyres. So thank goodness we had the 6-second gap to Tim behind, because if we didn't, then we would have dropped even more places, and I'm now struggling with the car big time, because unfortunately dirty tyres take a little bit to clean up, and in essence then we just had to try and get back some consistency through the remaining laps of the race. I've cut now right to the very end where we've caught the GT4 pack, because this is obviously going to provide us with some opportunities, because Lynn's having to make his way through the traffic. We're now having to make our way through the traffic. Are we able to close the gap sufficiently to perhaps claw back some of that time that we lost? Tim, though, is stuck with us this time, so he's only half a second behind, so we haven't pulled away in the same way that we did previously. It's really super tight again here, just as in Oulton Park, trying to cut through the GT4 pack. We were just able to get past Fender in the BMW there, and we're now coming to cross the line and start our final lap of the race. We'll get past the McLaren up ahead before we get into T1, which is going to be crucial. We're going to try and carry good pace through here. Linda's now about 4 or 5 cars up the road. So he's managed to make his way through this little pack up ahead, so we've got to get past them as quickly as we can if we're going to stand any chance at the back end of this lap of being close to the leader. Unfortunately, as we come now into the left-hander, we get just stuck behind. If I could have made a move down the inside there, we would have gained a good half a second, if not a bit more. We do squeeze him on the exit, but we managed to make it past. We're going to make a big dive now onto the inside to make sure that we clear the Aston Martin into the left-hand hairpin, and now we're tucked up behind another McLaren of O'Brien that we'll pass relatively easy on the exit. Down into the left-hander, now coming up against Kimber in the BMW. We can't get down the inside of this corner, so again we're stuck behind, we're losing time. We're going to try and get him on the exit, and we managed to, but we're pinched to the inside, which is not ideal coming onto the back straight. It means that we've lost more time, but look at that, the gap has come down to 4.2 seconds. Earlier on in this race, after my off, that had gone up to about 9 seconds, so the gap has halved, but it's not really coming down any further as we come for a final time, thankfully, into the tricky braking zone and into the right-hander. We don't make any further mistakes there, but we're just simply not going to be able to close the gap to the lead car. We have been able to build a bit further gap behind us, so it looks like it's going to be second place again for the second round in a row in this championship. We get a little bit sideways coming in there. We're going to make up one more spot on the GT4 pack, dive down the inside into the final corner, tiny bit of contact on exit, and we're going to come across the finish line in second place. So good points in the championship, perhaps not what we'd hoped for at the beginning of the race, but another podium, which is good. At least it proves that we've got consistency. There's confirmation of the finishing results, what it does in terms of points awarded at Snetterton, and then finally what it's done to the championship standings. So we've gone into the lead of the championship standings by virtue of having the 2 best results so far. We're now moving ahead to round 3 at Silverstone, and a very cold Silverstone. You'll notice in the bottom right hand corner the tyre graphics are not bright green by any stretch of the imagination. We've started this one in second, and again another good qualifying, and we're trying to go around the outside of Tim, who's been our rival at the front of these races so far this season, every time round, and we do manage to make that stick as we come now into the Maggots and Beckett's complex for the first time. But it is so tricky. It's like driving on ice. The tyres are just not warmed up at all. I'm assuming it's the same for everybody, as the track temperature is just really, really cold, and it makes this opening lap an absolute adventure. We're just trying to kind of nurse the car around, but of course the slower you go, the less heat you're generating into the tyres, so you've got to try and push a little bit if you're going to get the tyres up to temperature. You'll see how difficult it is to get the car turned in here as we come around the right hander. It just drifts essentially. We get on the brakes here into left hander, and pretty well really, and we managed to slow the car down, gaining a little bit more confidence now as we come through into the back half of the lap. But again, it's really difficult to get on the power as we come past the new Silverstone complex on our right hand side. But we've managed to get a good half-second gap to Tim behind, and we're now kind of coming round, and it's still painfully slippery on the track, and I'm a little bit concerned as to just how hard I can push at this point, because I don't want to bin it. The pack is still so tightly packed together that if I do go off track at this point, we'll lose all sorts of positions. That is an absolute nightmare coming round into the tight left-hander. My line was wrong, the tyres aren't hot enough, so I was just sliding around. And now we're onto the back straight with just half a second separating us and Tim, as we look now to try and get some more consistency as we head towards the end of this lap. Very nearly going all the way around there, just about catch the car into the final corner now of the lap. The tyres, at least according to the graphic, look like they might just be about starting to get a bit of temperature into them as we come to the end of this first lap. We've now got a second gap to Tim behind, and we're going to try and extend that now over the coming laps. Cut forward now onto lap 3. Halfway around the lap, and this will be essentially our quickest lap of the race, I think, and the tyres are now up to temperature. We dropped Tim by about 4 seconds, and essentially we're comfortably in the lead, and that's how this race now pans out. We just have the pace on all of the other cars on the track, despite the fact that we're still not taking the correct line through this section of the track, for example, at this point. We just have more pace than they do in other parts of the circuit. So this was really a kind of lights to flag race for us, where we were able to nip into the lead on lap 1 and then comfortably assert our pace through the middle section of the race. The one thing that I'm thinking about at the minute is that I need to build a comfortable enough gap, because for the first time this season I'll be the first car that hits the GT4 pack towards the end of this race. So I want to build a good gap so that when we do hit the GT4 pack, if I lose some time in that traffic, it's not fatal to our chances of a race win. So fast forward now to the very end of the race, and we have eventually hit the GT4 pack. We're still slipping and sliding a little bit, but we're going to come around the outside of the McLaren, and we're now got about a lap and a half of this race left to go. We have a 10-second gap back to Nicky Tim as we come now towards the beginning of the final lap, and we're going to be passing more GT4 cars now throughout this final lap, and we've built that gap, which means actually we can do so relatively confidently, that as long as we keep our pace to a reasonable standard, we can afford to drop a second or two, and it shouldn't damage us too much. So we're going to come now into the Maggots-Beckett's complex. I wasn't sure which way the GT4 cars were going to go there. Finally pick the left-hand side, managed to make our way through, and we're going to now try and pass these slow back markers in this race, who will of course be fighting their own race. You can see the two cars up ahead there having a bit of a fight as they're coming round onto Hanger Straight. So we're going to have to be mindful of that. We come round the outside of the Aston Martin, and we're now closing on the back of another Aston Martin and McLaren, who are fighting with one another. We're going to try and pass one of them here into the right-hander. We managed to make that move stick. Not going to be too greedy and just measure our moves here, because at the end of the day, the only thing that can stop us from winning this race now is if we bin it, or if we come together with a GT4 car and have a big off. So I am being kind of measured in what I'm doing here to just make sure that we get over the line in first place, which we've comfortably deserved in terms of our rivals in the GT3 field. Pass another GT4 car there, and another before we get into the fast right-hander past the Silverstone complex and into then the final section of the lap. Into the right-hand corner now. Am I going to be able to get a better line through here? I think I do on this last lap, finally, having kind of struggled with it throughout most of this race. Yes, we do, and that's going to give us a good exit onto the back straight for the final time. Are we going to catch up with these final clutch of GT4 cars? It doesn't really matter in the context of the race result. I can afford now to take it a little bit easier through these final couple of corners. The race victory is going to be ours, and that will further cement our lead at the top of this British GT Championship on Assetto Corsa Competizione. We're round the final corner now for the last time. We're going to get big exit speed on the BMW ahead, so we're going to try and nick in front of him just as we approach the line, but we're not going to quite do it, but I don't care. We've won the race comfortably, and despite having cold tyres at the beginning, we were able to navigate that, and there we are on the central step of the podium this time. Confirmation of the race results, a good 14-second gap back to Tim, and 25 points heading our way, which, as I said, cements our lead at the top of the championship. So I hope you've enjoyed these races. If you have, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and join us for the next race in the British GT Championship.